There's a certain argument against the existence of God that I'd like to go over in this video. It's an argument that was popularized by the YouTuber Alex O'Connor.
Belief. Not only does theism need to account for non-resistant non-belief, but also for the fact that such belief is unequally present across the globe. Stephen Mason has pointed out that the populace of Saudi Arabia is 95% Muslim and therefore 95% theistic, whereas the populace of Thailand is 95% Buddhist and therefore, at best, 5% theistic. How likely you are to be a theist, in other words, is intimately tied to the place in which you happen to be born. What can better explain this geographical spread? Theism or naturalism or atheism? Well, let's consider our two competing hypotheses. Could it be that God does exist, but that the Thai are simply naturally 20 times more likely to be resistant to belief in God than, say, the Saudis? Are they just naturally 20 times more stubborn or something? This seems implausible. This doesn't seem to be their fault. Okay, so maybe then it's not their fault, and God just has some reason to hide his face disproportionately more from the Thai than from Saudis, or indeed from those born here in Massachusetts, which has a theistic, according to one statistic, is 75% theistic. If theism is true, it seems to me that God has a lot to answer for here. Is it not troubling, Jonathan, for as a Christian, that your place of birth is a reliable statistical indicator of how likely you are to be saved? I'll say that again. Your place of birth, which is entirely arbitrary, is a reliable indicator of how likely you are on Christianity to be saved. You're significantly more likely to be a theist if you're born in Rwanda than if you're born in Thailand. Can this situation really obtain under the supervision of a God who wants to come to know us and makes his existence equally accessible to all? The chances seem infinitely small.
This argument has been misrepresented by some people to be a genetic fallacy. I'm not going to name those people, but Alex O'Connor has responded to them.
Christian. Okay, and if you were born somewhere else, you wouldn't be an atheist. Everyone's beliefs are shaped by their context.
Well, this just misses the point. Sure, all beliefs are shaped by their geography, but atheists don't claim that there's a God supervising the world who proactively wants everyone to believe in him. If such a God did exist, would we really expect him to reveal himself more strongly and reliably to, say, Americans than to Indonesians? It seems incredibly unlikely and unfair that your chances of being saved, of coming to know the true God, could be determined by where you happen to be born. If atheism is true, however, it's no surprise that where you're born shapes your religious beliefs, because that's what we think religious beliefs are, products of local mythology or political dominance. So yeah, if I was born in Indonesia, I'd probably be a Muslim. But whilst that's exactly what we'd expect if there is no universal God supervising everything and it's all just a product of local mythology, it's nothing like what we'd expect if there were a real universal God. By the way, I call this the genetic fallacy. A
few points to make in response to this argument. The first point is that even if it's true, it provides evidence against specific religions, not theism as a whole. Because theism as a whole does not entail certain religions are true, necessarily. Important to note that Buddhism has many different schools of thought. Some of them are theistic, so it's not the case that every single Buddhist is a non-theist. The second point is that this argument implies that the more geographically contained a religion is, the less likely it is to be true. Well, this would also imply the reverse, that the more geographically paced out a religion is, the more likely it would be to be true. And Christianity is far more geographically diverse than other religions, so this would incidentally end up being a point for Christianity, at least in some way. The major part of this argument relies on your view of salvation. So while some people might think that only people who have heard of Jesus and have had a chance to hear Jesus will get saved, that's not the only view. So this argument would really only work on very exclusionist views of Christianity. I also think this argument assumes that we know exactly how and when people will get saved. So if we want to say that salvation is completely random, we'd have to have a full, complete understanding of salvation. But we don't. Therefore, it's hard to say that salvation is just random based on your birthplace. So this was a pretty quick video. I just wanted to respond to this one argument and that was all. So, yeah.